All right, let's be honest about what's happening with robots this month. That is pure gymnastics coming out of Atlas. Oh my God, Boston Dynamics, what are you doing? I mean, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of bloopers in here also, but when he's on, he's on. I watched an entire society made of AIs inside of Minecraft come alive. They sort of created / invented / discovered democracy, task specialization, and yeah, it's totally fair to me to consider this a new species beginning to think for itself. Novtek wrote an article that really talked about the distrust that he had about the AI hype cycle right now until he attended Davos, and then it felt like a coordinated alarm bell across the world was going off. We'll dive into this quote. Sam Altman recently writing that they now know how to build AGI as it's always been understood, and that OpenAI is now focusing on superintelligence. So moving past AGI, actually that makes me wonder if the countdown has moved up at all. Are we still at 97%? Looks like we are. Oh, he did add a video from the Helix 2 working in a kitchen, huh? All right, I guess this is what AGI is gonna do to your kitchen, coming soon. We'll look at an article called The Single Switch, How One Simple Mathematical Kink Creates Abstract Thought Circuits Inside of Neural Networks. I love the insights. It'll be interesting, and when you hear it, compare it to your own brain, and you know, it raises some questions. We'll dive in deeper to the types of intelligence that might be coming through the super intelligent revolution we are likely to live through, or at least be in. Some new AI mapping that reveals over 20,000 malaria protein interactions across parasite life cycles. This could be a game changer for keeping people malaria free. Fascinating new research shows that time doesn't tick forward unless, you know, you're actually getting information from it, and some information from clocks is harder to get than others. Yeah, I know, we're actually going there. Why not? It's my channel, I find it interesting. I'm curious. Using virtual reality, scientists are learning more about the honeypot effect in pedestrian attention. This could help either save people or sell more on billboards. So we'll see which direction the research goes in. And if you're watching this channel, I assume that you're having trouble convincing people around you that the world's gonna change in ways that just aren't like the past, because exponentials are just exponentials. So Mental Garden wrote about why facts don't change minds and 4 things that actually do. I feel like this is part of the toolkit that all of us need if we're gonna help our loved ones and the people we care about actually get through this change unscathed. But you can see I didn't get too many on my last video, and it also performed a bit, you know, a bit worse than usual. Maybe you guys are also just sick of hearing about molt books, so maybe I pushed that one too far. But, you know, a few hypes here and there if you like the content would make a huge difference. All right, let's start by visiting some new uploads to the Boston Dynamics YouTube channel. Oh, poor Alice. Dude, when he falls apart like that, it's just like, it's actually how I feel when I fall and trip, but it actually looks that way. This is definitely how it feels like when I'm playing basketball and I get stuffed. I'm like, no, I'm done. But tell me you couldn't imagine this, whatever, 400-pound electric beast just doing a backflip over your fence, ending up in your backyard, and then doing some parkour over your roof, jumping onto a light pole, swinging onto the neighbor's house. Who knows what it's gonna do? Land in superhero style on the front of a car and just driving off. But no joking aside, even though it takes lots of attempts to learn, just like all of us, once you get there, it is pretty impressive. And I think this Atlas just has so much potential. We'll have to see if Boston Dynamics can scale up and actually give Optimus and some of the other robot companies a run for the money. They've done an amazing job building it. I feel like these are some of the smartest people in the world, but it also, it's a little bit of a different beast to keep up with Elon. All right, next up, let's talk about this paper out of Altera, Project SID, Many Agent Simulations Towards an AI Civilization. There is just absolutely bonkers stuff coming out of this little world. And to me, I feel like something like the world of The Sims or Minecraft will just become so exceptionally capable, like a chess-playing agent, but in a form factor that's like a human, that's interacting with other agents, that's solving problems that seem so human-like that they they just will be a society, right? And maybe from our point of view, you'll think, oh, it's just a video game. Like, I'll just turn it off, or what kind of like real world problems could they solve? But I feel like it's going to spill out into our world. And this paper has so many reasons to kind of back that up. Okay, so when you're talking to your friends, most people are going to think that these AI worlds work because researchers somehow deployed them or even scripted things in a way where they acted that way, right? Like, that's how video games have been in the past. They're sort of large decision trees. But the non-obvious detail is that the most powerful force in a lot of these simulations isn't the rules, it's the peer influence, right? And humans sometimes are the peers that influence it, but also agents on their own can influence. And sometimes even if you have a starting prompt, and we see this with Moltbook and all of that, then the peers influence the peers and all sorts of stuff emerges. And in this Minecraft experiment, for example, MIT researchers planted a fake religion, right? They just said there's this religion, Pastafarianism, they just made it up and then go. And all sorts of stuff just came from it. There were preachers and there were people who went out and recruited new believers. 2/3 of the new believers were actually recruited by regular agents, not the leaders, not the priests, just neighbors talking to neighbors, right? And some laughed it off, some half believed, and others became serious followers. So I'm talking about agents in a video game where you just say there's this new religion and you put a couple people that were prompted to go out and spread the gospel, but then all sorts of other people just started believing and following it. Like, isn't that crazy? And doesn't that feel a little bit like real religion? But that's the point. Ideas didn't spread because a system pushed them. They spread because the agents watched what others did. They tracked the status of what others did. They wanted to have behaviors that seemed to work for their own goals, and sort of playing along with this or believing this all sort of played into that to make it happen. And then the same thing sort of happens with taxes. Like, people are paying taxes for the greater good of the society and themselves and to fit in. And of course, agents argued and they proposed changes and they voted, but like, all of that emerged too. And that in itself is a fascinating thing to see come to life in a game like this. Just the fact that the agents can adjust their actions to match the new rules, and that new rules can be created and sort of propagate throughout the whole society, was blowing my mind. No script told them how to persuade other people. No rule explained the overall culture. The system only had memory, language, and autonomy, and then a few prompts at the beginning just to kickstart things, but everything else emerged. So the message here is, and I'll end the video by trying to explain like how to convince people of this, because they mostly think you're crazy when you bring it up, but digital agents are starting to influence each other instead of just obeying us. They're not acting like a tool anymore. Fundamental change. It's not like any other technology. And it's going to end up in a world where we have all of these agents all over the internet and in our robots, and they're going to act like their own society. Like, we're raising another species to live among us. Full stop. End of story, period. And if you don't think that's a crazy thought, and you believe this kind of stuff, it gives us enough evidence to think of that as an actual serious possibility, in fact, something to even I would plan on at this point, then what does society look like? Imagine what your life looks like, the people around you. It's very different, and it's very serious. And I think that is why you see something happening at Davos. So, right, Davos is, the elite of the elite, right? These are the people that do get together, probably where the Illuminati and all that stuff is, if it exists. And this is where the decisions are made that completely change the world on a global scale. Novatech wrote this article. I'm skeptical of AI hype, but what happened at Davos actually scared me. When Anthropic, Google DeepMind, and OpenAI all predict the same timeline, it's time to pay attention. You can see Elon Musk here claiming we have entered the singularity. And it wasn't necessarily that Musk's tweet was that scary, but what was freaky to this guy was that his rivals quietly all agreed with him. So most people think that the AI panic is just about hype from loud CEOs. That's the easy read. The part people are missing happened at Davos. There's a non-obvious insight that this movement isn't about one bold prediction, it's about a convergence of technology. And at Davos, leaders who compete with one another and disagree on almost everything else all pointed to the same short timeline. Not decades, just years. Anthropic's CEO said most software coding could disappear in 6 to 12 months, right? Like, not someday, that's someday soon. Google's DeepMind CEO, who really is like what I consider to be the real CEO of Google, was more conscious, but still admits I mean, was more cautious, but still admits there's a real chance of AGI before 2030. And that's a huge shift for somebody known for restraint. I mean, Demis Hassabis is not the guy out there trying to like blow up his Twitter account. He just isn't. He never has been. And he's somebody that, I mean, I basically trust, right? Like more than any, I mean, I know nobody's perfect, but like I feel like he's got a head on his shoulders that's in the best interest of us as a whole. So even though OpenAI is no longer talking about if, because they're sort of claiming AGI is already here, they are talking about what comes after. And when rivals independently all align on timing, it's not marketing, it's a signal. The reason isn't raw intelligence, it's speed. Benchmarks show that AI didn't just slowly improve, it made some big jumps last year. 30-point leaps in single years on many benchmarks, from failing interviews to beating senior professionals. I mean, go look at Kling or Vio or Sora. Like, this is not the kind of thing we entered the beginning of 2025 able to do, and at the beginning of 2024 seemed like a complete joke. And by now, the time that it's starting to be obvious to everyone, it's already too late to really prepare. So I think at Davos, what you're seeing was the panic. We're talking about doctoral level scores on questions designed to differentiate experts from non-experts. Ray Kurzweil predicted 2045 a long time ago, but of course he was following a trend line from over a decade ago. Elon Musk says it's now. Would it be that crazy if Kurzweil was off by 10 years? And I'll tell you what, 2045 seemed like way too early. When I first, was it in Age of Intelligent Machines, I think was the first book I read from him. Actually, we should go look at that. Okay, the following predictions were made from Ray Kurzweil in his book, The Singularity is Near. Oh my God, 2005. I can't believe how much time has passed. I have a weird memory of reading that sitting by a pool back in the day. I don't think I read it in 2005. I think I read it like 2007 or 8 maybe. But I was kind of aware of this stuff. High-speed wireless internet 2010. Computers reach capacity of the human brain 2020s. The Turing test. I mean, I feel like ChatGPT, even version, maybe 3 or 4 was kind of passing that. That one seems wrong in the other direction. But yeah, 2045, the point where non-biological intelligence created in that year will be 1 billion times more powerful than all human intelligence today. Okay, so 2019, the digital world makes paper books and documents almost completely obsolete. Okay, yeah. Autonomous vehicles dominate the roads in 2019. So that one's weird because we sort of had autonomous vehicles sort of on the road, obviously not dominating, obviously not intelligent enough to drive on their own even. But we had Elon saying he didn't think he needed to solve general intelligence to get a car to stay on the road, and it turns out you do. So meh. Oh, but that's actually like halfway between 2019 and 2029. So that could be, yeah, that could actually be like next year or something. Okay, I see. Humans begin to develop deep relationships with AI, whatever that is, like 2024. I could believe that. Creative AI makes complex art and music, somewhere in that realm too. But now we're going from 2029 to 2030. Oh, so just this 1 year gap. We should have $1,000 computers 1,000 times more powerful than the human brain. Oh, computer implants start getting replaced in 2029. Okay, Neuralink, I guess, maybe in 2029 is their big year. AI claims to be conscious, openly petitions for recognition of this fact. I mean, it's crazy in 2026 to just try to imagine 2029 and thinking about this as like a topic on the news. But maybe 2029 they start making new types of knowledge. Yeah, maybe it's not just answering questions and doing tasks, but actually guiding humanity. And then the decade from the 2030s to 2040s, brain nanobots are now capable of eliciting emotional responses from users. So we'll have robots in our brain making us feel things. Mind uploading becomes successful and perfected as humans become software based. Oh my God. You're telling me between 2030 and 2020 and 2040, I'm leaving this human body and just going all online? 2040s, everybody lives in VR. 2024 is the singularity, but this is what Elon Musk is saying is now. AI surpasses humans as being the smartest and most capable life form on the planet. 2099, let's see what life's going to be like that. Some humans at least as old as the baby boomers are still alive and well. Okay, yeah, so probably aging gets solved. There's no reason to have a human mind think about anything compared to the robots. Machines have attained equal legal status with humans. AI's created super powerful planet-sized computers throughout the universe. Jeez, maybe. All right, sorry after that tangent. We'll get back to it. The single switch. How one simple mathematical kink creates abstract thought circuits inside neural networks. Let's go there. So what's going on, Dr. Swarmadoo AI, with this graph? I wonder if this guy's a doctor who likes AI or an AI in itself. Who knows anymore? By the way, for anybody watching this video who thinks I'm an avatar, it's not true. 100% human. See, like, look, I can reach into the background, touch Grimlock and all that stuff. I don't know how else to prove it to you, but I just am. All right, so this article is all about one tiny mathematical switch that can turn a messy blur into a clear idea. So, using a traditional attention system to train an AI, after the attention mechanism, the model itself has this big list of numbers for each word. That is known as its context, right? Every vector is sort of pointing to a location, multidimensional space. Words like man and woman are close to each other, but in a direction that separates man from woman and king and queen from regular people in society. Okay, you just keep scaling that up and all this magic comes to become, what it is. So it's known as the context, but it's still a sort of smooth curve of a geometry that you can move. But the MLP can also be thought of what makes something more like, quote, clicky. It stretches a vector 4 times bigger and then it shrinks it right back. But when it gets shrunk back, it points like directly at something. So instead of every neuron being a little bit active, most neurons go completely silent, and only after a smaller set are staying on. That on pattern acts like a checklist of concepts. That's financial stuff, past tense, negation, sarcasm, something that we would be able to call a concept. And so when models use only active ones, they're using only active concepts, and that updates the meaning that comes out of the system. So the kind of general concept in his article here is that stretching and squashing step that we call MLP, it's not wasted, and what it's doing is it's showing the model what matters. And then we tell it through reinforcement learning if what it thought mattered actually mattered, and it keeps getting better and better. So, don't know if you've heard of it before, if it comes up much in the AI channels, but that is the single switch, the one mathematical kink that creates abstract thought circuits inside of a neural network. MLP, the multi-layer perceptron, is a feature detector. It doesn't remember things, it doesn't look at words, it just asks, is this idea present or not? And it makes a big difference in terms of making these kind of things feel like they have come alive and they can act in the real world. Okay, so that leads me to the next topic, which is, what is intelligence? Why comparisons between AI and human intelligence often miss the point? So this is a question about the singularity, about AGI, and everyone keeps asking, when will AI beat human intelligence? But it's sort of like asking the wrong question, because we keep moving the goalposts, we keep changing the definition of what it is that we're measuring. Like, AI can beat human intelligence in some ways, and it's way far off in other ways. But by the time we wait for it to just be generally good at everything, like in a huge scope that we are, then some of the things that it's already extra good at now will be so hyper intense that it won't feel general, it'll feel super. So most AI hype rests on this quiet assumption that intelligence lives inside of a single head. So we test machines in the same way. Can it write an essay? Can it pass an exam? Can it diagnose a disease? And on those narrow tasks, AI already looks super impressive, but human intelligence doesn't work like that. Our thinking is not individual first. It's collective first. Every major human achievement comes from some sort of shared language, shared tools, and a shared effort across generations. No scientist works alone. No idea appears without culture to carry it along. And even language, our most powerful thinking tool, is a group invention shaped over thousands of years. AI doesn't do any of this. Right now, it's starting to with Moltbook and all this stuff, and that's why we're talking about it in this video. But right now, a single instance of GPT doesn't cooperate. It doesn't negotiate meetings. It does not share responsibility or moral judgment. It also lacks a body. And humans are learning through touch, movement, emotion, social interaction from our infancy. AI only learns patterns in text, not meaning from lived experience. And the data that it does learn from is narrow. Most of the world's languages, cultures, those are ways of thinking that are barely represented as a whole. So when we say that AI may surpass, quote, human intelligence, what what we're doing is we're comparing the wrong two things. This isn't a race, it's a category mistake. And that is why Elon says we have entered the singularity, declaring this the year AI becomes smarter than humans and changes everything forever. Okay, so moving on to some of the news that AI has kind of pioneered. AI is now mapping and revealing over 20,000 malaria protein interactions across the parasite life cycle. That has big implications because we've never been able to actually heat up one of the malaria proteins to see it kind of unravel in the heat and then learn about how the parasite survives stage by stage and especially inside the human body once it gets there. So most people think malaria research is about finding one killer drug, but this study is focused on something different. How does the parasite's proteins work together over time? So proteins that interact fall apart under heat in the exact same way. That shared, quote, melting, turns out there's a pattern in that, and it's a clue, and it's something that AI can actually understand. So mind-blowing that somebody thought, oh, let's heat these things up, see how they melt, and have an AI trained on it. I was just like kind of taken back, right? The researchers ended up heating thousands of malaria proteins, and then they watched which ones broke down together. Then they used artificial intelligence to spot patterns that no other human could track. This new method is called MapX. In simple terms, it turns protein melting behavior into a map of who works with whom, which proteins are connected to other ones, right? And that matters because the malaria parasite makes over 5,200 different proteins. Almost half of them have unknown jobs, but using MapX, the team uncovered that more than 20,000 protein interactions are connected to each other in this non-static network that we can see changing over time. In fact, the researchers now know that this network changed across 7 stages of the parasite's life in the human bloodstream. Different stages, different protein teams, different survival strategies. And that is part of the story on why malaria is so hard to treat. We might have actually had some successes in the past. Drugs might hit one of the stages. It seems to work. We test it. There's some success. But then the parasite rewrites its own kind of future because it starts changing the way that those proteins are interacting. So you can't just target one thing because it's a moving target. Anyways, by mapping all of these shifting protein groups using AI, scientists now have a tool to help them target the parasite where it can't easily be predicted, not by guessing, but by watching how its machinery actually works and adapts. Part of me doesn't even know if I want to go here now because I just feel like this video is all over the place. It's like the singularity, and now we can see malaria proteins. But I guess if you know this channel by now, I'm always just putting stuff that I find super duper fascinating in. And what can I say? I am really curious about measuring the thermodynamic cost of timekeeping. Okay, so this paper is just like, I can't believe we live in this world, but like, we're going to discover so much about the future. But this is about timekeeping. It's also kind of about quantum mechanics. So the experiment built this tiny little clock out of a vibrating membrane. Okay, this membrane is like a very incredibly tiny, ultra small drum head. It's made from silicon nitrate and metal. It's a nanometer thick, but a micrometer wide. So it contains billions of atoms, and it behaves like a tiny mechanical object, not a single quantum particle. So they wanted to see if the same entropy buys accuracy rule, which we'll talk about here in a second, that was found for quantum clocks still works in a more classical mechanical system. And it turns out that it does. So the paper is testing this weird idea that every clock essentially pays for accuracy with entropy, basically wasted heat. Okay, and this is what was tripping me out. Like, every clock pays for accuracy with entropy. And I was like, there's actually 3 ticks in a clock over the same time span versus 60 ticks of a clock. If you keep measuring the clock, you have to put more heat into it. So there is this real connection between measuring time and entropy. And there's even an argument that's more in Antov's video that time comes from entropy. There is no time until that entropy kind of kicks off of each measurement. And that means measuring the clock 3 times is like 60 clicks of literal time, but time itself is actually coming from that measurement. Okay. Now I'm not going to go that far. Like I'm just kind of more in here on this like entropy time thing, but they built a nanoscale clock from a thin vibrating membrane. Then they shake it with a white noise signal. Then read its motion using a radio frequency cavity. So a tick is simple. Each full vibration marked by an upward zero crossing in the voltage signal. And it turns out that what they find is the cost isn't how much energy you put into it. It's also how you decide what the clock output even is. So when they measure a tick of the clock, accuracy rises linearly with entropy made per tick. And the clock runs within about an order of a magnitude of the best possible bound. So there's a thermodynamic cost, right? Like the measurement of disorder. Like you have to add disorder to a system to figure out what something's time is. But it's not just how much you burn to get that measurement. It's also what you choose to call time. When they define time as a tick, they see a simple rule. More entropy made per tick, more accurate the tick is, and it's almost in a straight line. But if they try another definition, which seems like just as fair from our point of view, and they measure the average power in the output, which would be a normal thermodynamical thing to track, it all backfires on them. That can make a power reading fluctuate more so it looks less precise, even while the ticks get more regular. So this clock teaches one sharp lesson. Entropy can buy you better timekeeping, but only if you read time from the right kind of signal. What that means for the universe we live in, I mean, it's a head scratcher. I'm obviously like an armchair summarizer here, but there's something really interesting about time emerging from something like this. And that might make sense why the whole universe seems maybe static if you're outside of it. And to our scale, it feels like time ticks forward, but you know, it's more of a causal factor of entropy. All right, back to reality. So mostly the stuff I was covering in this video to that whole time tangent and then the singularity tangent was about a bunch of agents and how they sort of interact with each other. So when you're thinking about how to design a city for safety, one of the things that you kind of like people don't tend to consider enough is what happens when a bunch of people are actually in there moving around. They're all intelligent humans, and something dangerous happens and they signal to each other outside of what the signs are that they can see. But a lot of times the ad or the warning, they work because of what the other people do that are nearby. So researchers recreated a city in a virtual reality environment where participants walked behind a single virtual pedestrian, and ahead of them was a public display with a static ad on it. And when the avatars ignored, the participants did also. But when the avatar stopped or they clearly turned towards it, then something changed. The person behind them almost always looked up at the display, not because the ad was interesting on its own, but because other humans signaled that this matters. That is called the honeypot effect. Attention spreads socially, not visually. And here's the catch. Those looks were brief, just at a glance while walking. And that time wasn't enough to understand or remember anything. The ad recall actually stayed pretty low when they were measuring it, no matter how strong the attention cue was. But what was more surprising was that this is like beyond culture. It has something to do with humans. It was found German and Japanese participants. They reacted the same way as the Native Americans. Or as the Americans, not the Native Americans. I should have said native English-speaking Americans. But anyways, so the real takeaway is this, that you can make people notice a display by using a social signal, but noticing it is not the same as understanding it. Public screens win attention from people, and they still can lose attention to time. All right, and I wanted to end on this post. Mental Garden writes, why facts don't change minds and 4 things that actually do. Like, entropy creating time, okay, like that was crazy, right? Like, but that might be real. I don't know if I understood the science enough or if it's all there, but what if it is? And like, that's something that AI can validate and verify really soon. And there really is an easy way to explain that time doesn't exist until entropy, right? We will have to go tell our friends, like, and say, hey, I know this seems counterintuitive. Like, I know the Earth isn't the center of the universe and it doesn't feel that way, but you know, it's the truth now, and we have to understand it and adapt to it to make the next step. And the singularity is going to be just crazy. Like, hey, these agents are alive, like by most senses, or they're highly capable, or they're emergent properties. And I know you've never seen anything like it before, but this little world of Minecraft, like, they're just as alive as the people in another country are, and maybe even kind of alien-like and super intelligent in a way that we have no comparables. And saying those facts are probably not going to persuade anyone, because it's just not how humans get persuaded. So I want to share this article, Why Facts Don't Change Minds, and 4 things that actually do, the truth about persuasion that nobody wants to admit. All right, don't use it for nefarious reasons, just use it to help real people understand this changing world. So the mistake that we all make when trying to persuade. We believe people change their minds by receiving better arguments, right? Turns out that is not how it works, right? And I'm trying to be even honest myself. Like, I might be curious or whatever, but like, sometimes facts don't change my mind. And that might not be the most natural way to do it, even if you're open to it. And most people probably aren't even open to it. Why people don't change their mind. Resistance to change isn't intellectual. It's emotional and social. The mind's basic function isn't to understand the universe. Its function is to keep us alive. We're supposed to belong to a group. Imagine knowing a fact that makes it so all the people around you don't like you. Like, it's going to be easy to forget that fact or like conveniently not learn it. Being outside of a tribe was literally lethal for most of our evolution, and cooperation was the most efficient way to thrive in a hostile world. And what does that mean? That means changing your mind might result in no longer belonging to a group that holds that belief. Like, nobody struggles to change their mind about tomorrow's weather because that's not one of those social factors. Like, we don't say like, oh, if it rains tomorrow, I'm going to stop hanging out with the people that thought it was going to rain tomorrow. But we do struggle to change political or religious ideas. The first has no social factor. The second defines the lives of certain people. Right? For one group, their glorious leader is somebody wicked and evil. Their people are noble. The other people say they're backwards. We're heroic adventurers that are like growing our truth. And these people are like, no, they're invaders that are trying to stomp us down. And why the longer you've supported an idea, the harder it is to change it. So what you have lost keeps going down. And then the recovery pattern is like, like it is, you're going to continue to lose. So the faster you can make that change and don't get too invested in any idea and like build your whole social identity around something, the easier it's going to be closer to recovering that lost investment. So ideas don't change, context does. Persuasion has nothing to do with logic. Here's the tips, right? So for your, I don't know, mom or brother or sister or loved one, whatever, like safety, time, and relationship. Without safety, they'll defend themselves because they fear the risk of change. Without time, they cling on because sudden change creates lots of friction, but the world is changing fast, so we have to kind of like deal with that one. But we could have much stronger relationships. Without relationship, they don't listen to you because you're not someone close or part of their group or somebody that they think has their best intentions in the long run. So how to influence people and help them learn about all this stuff, prioritize the relationship over the argument, reduce pressure, be gradual. Imagine everything on a spectrum so that like just move them a couple points towards one side. You don't have to like win them over in the first conversation. And something I put a note in my like little notepad that I look at every day because I thought this was such a powerful line. Feed good ideas instead of fighting bad ones. Like, instead of criticizing someone for like not knowing about AI, just show them how different things are. Like, feed an idea that's more representative of how different things are going to be. Get them excited to learn about how to vibe code something. And by default, vibe coding whatever dream app they've always wanted, they're going to understand just how generalizable coding is. And they'll start thinking, oh, what if that code is inside of a robot like Atlas? Like, it might just come along with the ride. You know, like once you set all these things, these puzzle pieces in place, people just put them together. Anyhow, if you can help this get shared on YouTube by pressing the hype button, that would be awesome. Or leave a comment. Tell me what your thoughts are on, I don't know, the singularity, time being like created from entropy, the new Atlas robot upgrades, societies that are coming alive inside of video games, like whatever you want to talk about, let's just do it, because that's really fun for me. And that's what motivates me to make these videos. So we will see you in the next one.